நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது உங்கள் RSKV யூடியூப் சேனல்.
Income Tax Inspectors Exam 2021 Part 3 Allied Laws. Question 1. In a case of one and the same decree, the attachment of salary under Order 21 of the Civil Procedure Code 1908 can continue for a total period of 24 months. Question 2. Which of the following is true? Two or more persons can join to make a single affidavit. B. They should depose the facts known to them in separate paragraphs. C. Clerical mistakes can be corrected only before the affidavit is made. Answer D. All of the above are true. Question 3. Find the odd man out from the following. Any court may, in any suit, Rule 4 of Order 26 of CPC, issue a commission to Allied Court, ALIGH, Allied Court. Question 4. Any court may, in a suit, issue a commission for the examination on interrogatories who is sick. For this purpose, the court can accept a certificate by a registered medical practitioner as evidence without calling the medical practitioner as a witness. The statement is true. Question 5. As per Civil Procedure Code 1908, to entertain review application is the discretionary power of court. Question 6. Which of the following does not come under the definition of information under RT Act 2005? File notings. Question 7. Choose the wrong statement. As per Section 7(8), where a request to provide information has been rejected, the CPIO shall communicate to the applicant the personal details of the CPIO. Question 8. Question 8. What is the time limit for the third party as per Section 11 of RT Act 2005 to make a representation against the proposed disclosure of information when a notice is served upon him by CPIO? 10 days. Question 9. Section 4(1)(b) 9 of RTA Act states that Section 4(1)(b) 11 of RTA Act states that a public authority should publish the budget allocated to each of its agency, proposed expenditures. Third, reports on disbursements made. Answer D. All of the above. Question 10. Which section of RTA Act 2005 deals with obligations of public authorities? Section 4(1). Question 11. What are the information not open to disclosure under RTA Act 2005? 1. Disclosure of which would prejudicially affect the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security, strategic, scientific or economic interests of the state, relation with foreign state, or lead to incitement of an offence. 2. Information which has been expressly forbidden to be published by any court of law or tribunal, or the disclosure of which may constitute contempt of court. 3. Information, the disclosure of which would cause a breach of privilege of Parliament or the state legislature. 4. Information including commercial confidence, trade secrets, or intellectual property, the disclosure of which would harm the competitive position of a third party unless the competent authority is satisfied that larger public interest warrants the disclosure of such information. All the four are Correct. Question 12. Under which section a central state public information officer may reject a request for information where such a request for providing access would involve an infringement of copyright subsisting in a person other than the state? Section 9. Question 13. The RTA Act 2005 stipulates that a public authority should transfer an RTA application or a part thereof to another public authority if the application or a part of it pertains to information A. held by another public authority, B. the subject matter of which is more closely connected with the functions of another public authority. Both A and B are correct. Question 14. As per section 2H, public authority means any authority or body or institution of self-government established or constituted. 1. By or under the Constitution. 2. By any other law made by Parliament. 3. By any other law made by state legislature. 4. By notification issued or order made by the appropriate government. All the 4 above are correct. Question 15. As per section 2I, a record includes any document, manuscript and file. 2. Any microfilm, microfiche and facsimile copy of a document. 3. Any reproduction of image or images embodied in such microfilm. 4. Any other material produced by a computer or any other device. All the above are correct. Answer question 16. As per section 4(1)(b) of RTA Act 2005, every public authority is required to publish the particulars of its organization within dash from the enactment of the Act, 120 days. Question 17. In case where an application is made to a public authority requesting an information which is connected with the functions of another public authority, the public authority to whom the application is made shall transfer the application A. to that other public authority, B. to that other public authority and inform the applicant. Both A and B are correct. Question 18. B leases out commercial property to A for the purpose of starting a hostel for working girls. The lease is for 10 years. In the 5th year of the lease, A further lease the whole property to C for 4 years. After the expiry of 10 years, C remains in the possession of the property and continues to pay the rent to B. Which of the following statement will apply? The lease will continue between B and C from month-to-month basis. Question 19. B transfers some property to C with the condition that in case A marries during B's lifetime, the property will go to B. A marries during B's life. Which of the following statements will apply? The transfer and condition are valid and the property will transfer to A. Question B. 20. The trustee is bound to fulfill the purpose of the trust and to obey the directions of the author of the trust given at the time of its creation. Section 11 of Indian Trust Act. With regards to that section, which of the following is correct? Purpose can be amended with the consent of all the competent beneficiaries. Question 21. A conveys property to B in trust to sell the same and pay out the proceeds to the claims of A's creditors. A reserves no power of revocation. If the creditors are parties to the arrangement, the trust can be revoked with the consent of the beneficiaries. Question 22. As per Indian Succession Act 1925, dash means an instrument made in relation to a will and explaining, altering or adding to its dispositions and shall be deemed to form part of the will. Select the correct option for filling up the blank. Codicil is the answer. Question 23. According to the provisions of Indian Succession Act 1925, A. Dealing in the ordinary course of business with goods of the deceased received from another does not make an executor of his own wrong. 2. A sells the goods of the deceased testator to satisfy his own debts. He is an executor of his own wrong. Both are true. Question 24. In accordance with the Section 14 of the Indian Succession Act 1925, the domicile of a minor does not change with that of his parent in the following circumstances. If the minor is unmarried. Question 25. Provisions of Section 29 of Indian Succession Act 1925 are applicable to Christian. Question 26. According to the provisions of Indian Succession Act 1925, the property of an intestate devolves upon the wife or husband. Question 27. Which of the following is true about devolution of property of an intestate as per Indian Succession Act 1925, subject to the rules framed? Answer. Where the intestate has left a widow, and if he has left none who are kindred to him, the whole of his property shall belong to his widow. Question 28. The provisions of Part 6 of Indian Succession Act 1925 relating to testamentary succession of property are not applicable to property of any Mohammedan. Question 29. Which of the following are correct regarding capacity of a person to make a will? 1. A married woman may dispose by will of any property which she could alienate by her own act during her life. 2. Persons who are deaf or dumb or blind are not thereby incapacitated for making a will if they are able to know what they do by it. Then 4th, no person can make a will while he is in such a state of mind, whether arising from intoxication or from illness or from any other cause, that he does not know that he is doing what he is doing. These above three are correct. Question 30. A will or any part of a will, the making of which has been caused by the following is void: fraud, coercion, importunity. These are correct. Then question 31. Which of the following is not a valid will under the Indian Succession Act 1925? A can perceive what is going on in his immediate neighborhood and can answer familiar questions but has not a competent understanding as to the nature of his property. B. A executes an instrument purporting to be his will, but he does not understand the nature of the instrument nor the effect of its provisions. Both A and B are wrong. Question 32. Which of the following represents the correct effect of gift to attesting witness as per Indian Succession Act 1925? A will shall not be deemed to be insufficiently attested by reason of any benefit thereby given, either by way of bequest or by way of appointment to any person attesting it. Question 33. The executor or administrator, as the case may be, of a deceased person is his legal representative for all purposes, and all the property of the deceased persons vests in him as such. This statement is true. Question 34. Right as an executor or legatee is established under the Indian Succession Act 1925 when a court of competent jurisdiction 1. Grants probate of the will under which the right is claimed. 2. Grants letters of administrator of the will. Both are true. Question 35. A grant of probate or letters of administration in respect of an estate shall be deemed to supersede any certificate previously granted under 1. Part 10 of Indian Succession Act 1925. 2. Succession Certificate Act 89. Succession Certificate Act 1891. Both are true. Question 36. Under the Indian Succession Act 1925, who among the following has power to sue or prosecute any suit or otherwise act as a representative of the deceased? Person who has been granted probate. Person who has been issued letters of administration. Both are correct. Question 37. In which of the following cases A is an executor of his own wrong? 1. A takes goods of the deceased to satisfy his own debt. Number 2. A sues as executor of the deceased, not being such. Third, A continues to collect debts of the deceased even though he was appointed to collect debts in the lifetime of the deceased. All of the above are correct. Question 38. Unless extended, what is the time limit granted under Indian Succession Act 1925 to an executor or administrator to exhibit in the court account of the estate of the deceased after application and disposal? 12 months. Question 39. As per Section 317 of the Indian Succession Act 1925, the exhibition of an intentionally false inventory or account by executor or administrator shall be deemed to be an offence under which section of the Indian Penal Code 1860, 45 of 1860? 193. Question 40. In Midakshara law, Sapinda relationship arises between two persons from community of blood, while in Dayabhaga from community in the offering of religious oblation. Question 41. According to Dayabhaga law, each co-partner takes a defined share in the co-partnership property which on his death passes to his heirs by succession. Question 42. According to Mitakshara law, at the time of partition, A. No co-partners is entitled to call upon the Karta to account for his past dealings with the joint family property unless he establishes fraud, misappropriation, or improper conversion. B. No charge is to be made against any co-partner because a large share of the joint income was spent on his family in consequence of his having a large family to support. C. A co-partner who is entirely excluded from the enjoyment of the family property is entitled to meccine profits. All of the above are true. Question 43. Under pure Hindu law, a gift cannot be made in favor of a person who was not in existence at the date of the gift. Question 44. Which provision of the Hindu Succession Act 1956 permits a Mitakshara co-partner to dispose of his co-partnership interest by will? Section 30. Question 45. According to Hindu Succession Act, the heirs are mainly divided into class 1 and class 2. Question 46. With regard to right to ownership of property, the Dayabhaga school of Hindu law is different from Mitakshara school in which of the following ways? As per Dayabhaga school of Hindu law, sons do not acquire any right in the family property by birth, and the right to property devolves upon the male members for the first time on the death of the father, whereas per Mitakshara school of Hindu law, only male members acquire right by birth. Question 47. The spindam, as per Mitakshara school of thought, mean a person connected with the same body, that is, community of blood. Question 48. A co-partner can make a gift to his undivided interest in the co-partnery property with the consent of all other co-partners. Question 49. A Hindu under Mitakshara law can gift his separate or self-acquired property in certain cases subject to the claims for maintenance of those from those whom he is legally bound to maintain. Question 50. Which of the following statement is not correct relating to Mitakshara co-partnery? Every member of the joint family is a co-partner. This statement is not correct. Question 51. As per Section 5 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, transfer of property means an act by which a living person conveys property in present or in future to one or more other living persons, or to whom himself or himself and one or more other living persons. Who among the following is included in the definition of a living person as per Section 5? A. One individual or a body of individuals. B. An incorporated company. Both A and B are correct. Question 52. As per Section 7 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, the following persons are competent to transfer property. A young lady of 25 years, always of sound mind, holding a valid power of attorney from the owner of the property. A man of 35 years who is usually of unsound mind but occasionally of sound mind when he is out of sound mind. Both the statements are correct. Question 53. As per Section 10 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, where the property is transferred, subject to a condition to limitation absolutely restraining the transferee or any person claiming under him from parting with or disposing of his interest to the property, the condition or limitation is void except in the following cases. In the case of a lease for the benefit of the lessor or those claiming under him. Then question 54. As per Section 6 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, property of any kind may be transferred except as otherwise provided by the Act or by any other law for the time being in force. As per this section, Statement 1. A public office cannot be transferred. Statement 3. As easement cannot be transferred apart from the dominant heritage. These two statements are correct. And the statement 2. Salary of public officer after it has become payable can be transferred is incorrect. Question 55. As per Section 9 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, a transfer of property may be made without writing in every case in which a writing is not expressly required by law. After reading this section, the following oral transfer of properties were made by the following respective transferors and transferees. Transfer of property 1. Mrs. Jumki Devi, a landlady in Devariya village in the state of Jharkhand and owner of substantial sums of money in the presence of the members of the village council, makes an oral transfer of rupees 5 lakhs to another lady, one Mrs. Baishaki, Gopi and hands over rupees 5 lakhs in cash to Mrs. Baishaki Gopi in the presence of members of the village council. 2. Mrs. Alia Bhatt, the famous actress and owner of a posh residential house at Altamont Road in Mumbai, in the presence of some co-actors, makes an oral transfer of the said posh residential house to her co-actor, Mrs. Disha Patni, hands over the keys of the said residential house to Mrs. Disha Patni, and also gives possession of the said residential house to Mrs. Disha Patni. Transfer of property 1 above is legally valid as per the Transfer of Property Act 1882, but transfer of property 2 above is not valid. Of Alia Bhatt is not valid. Then question 56. Mrs. Prabhudeva proposed to transfer, signs an unregistered agreement to sell on 1st January 2020 with Mr. Chiranjeevi proposed to transfer it to sell his agricultural land located in Kandhala for a total consideration of Rs 25 crores. On the same day, in lieu of a proposed transfer, Mr. Prabhudeva, proposed transferor, receives an advance of Rs 5 crores from Mr. Chiranjeevi, proposed transferee, and hands over the possession of the said land to Mr. Chiranjeevi, proposed transferee. Later, Mr. Prabhudeva, proposed transferor, refuses to register the sale deeds of the said land in favor of Mr. Chiranjeevi, proposed transferee, and asks him to vacate the premises even though Mr. Chiranjeevi, proposed transferee, is willing to pay the balance amount of Rs 20 crores, under which section of the Transfer of Property Act 1882 is Mr. Prabhudeva, proposed transferor, debarred from evicting Mr. Chiranjeevi, proposed transferee. Section 53A, Part Performance. Question 57. As per the Transfer of Property Act 1882, which of the following is not a liability of the seller to the property? Answer. Entitlement to the rents and profits of the property till the ownership thereof passes to the buyer. Question 58. As per Section 58 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, where the mortgagor delivers possession or expressly or by implication binds himself to deliver possession of the mortgaged property to the mortgagee and authorizes him to retain such possession until payment of the mortgage money and to receive the rents and profits accruing from the property or any part of such rents and profits and to appropriate the same in lieu of interest or in payment of the mortgage money or partly in lieu of interest or partly in payment of the mortgage money. The transaction is called a usufructuary mortgage. Question 59. Which of the following is a transfer of a right to enjoy any property made for a certain time, express or implied, or in perpetuity, in consideration of a price paid or promised, or of money, a share of crops, service, or any other thing of value, to be rendered periodically or on specified occasions to the transferor by the transferee, who accepts the transfer on such terms. Lease. Question 60. As per the Transfer of Property Act 1882, a lease of immovable property from year to year or for any term exceeding 1 year or reserving a yearly rent can be made only by a registered instrument. Question 61. As per Section 108 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, which of the following is not a right of the lessee? If by the wrongful act or default of the lessee, fire is caused and any material part of the property is wholly destroyed or rendered substantially and permanently unfit for the purpose of for which it was let, the lease shall, at the option of the lessee, be void. Question 62. Which of the following is true of Gift as defined in the Transfer of Property Act 1882. Gift is a transfer of certain existing movable or immovable property made voluntarily and without consideration by one person called the donor to another called the donee and accepted by or on behalf of the donee. Question 63. For the purpose of making a gift of movable property, the transferor can be affected by the following: either by a registered instrument signed by or on behalf of the donor or by delivery. Question 64. As per section 53, fraudulent transfer of the Transfer of Property Act 1882, every transfer of immovable property made with intent to defeat or delay the creditors of the transferor shall be voidable at the option of only a creditor so defeated or delayed. Mr. Sachin Tendulkar owns 3/4 of a land in Mumbai jointly with MS Dhoni, who owns 1/4 of the said land. By a registered deed, they exchange the total land owned by them in Mumbai with 1/2 of a land owned by Mr. Virat Kohli in Lonavala. In the absence of a contract to the contrary between Mr. Sachin Tendulkar and Mrs. MS Dhoni, which of the following is true as per section 46 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882? Mr. Sachin Tendulkar is entitled to 3 right share of the total land of Mr. Virat Kohli, and MS Dhoni is entitled to 1/8 share of the total land of Mr. Virat Kohli. Question 66. What is a gift called where the gift is in the form of a single transfer to the same person of several things of which one is and the others are not burdened by any obligation? The donor can take nothing by the gift unless accepts it fully. Onerous gift. Question 67. Sale of property or transfer of property or delivery of possession of the property by the mortgager to the mortgagee is not a necessary ingredient of which of the following mortgage? Simple mortgage. Question 68. When does the delivery of tangible immovable property from the seller to the buyer take place? When the seller places the buyer or such person as the buyer directs in possession of the property. Question 69. Mr. A gives a field to Mr. B, reserving to himself, with Mr. B's assent, the right to take back the field in case Mr. B and his descendants die before Mr. A. Subsequently, Mr. B dies without descending during Mr. A's lifetime. Answer: Mr. A may take back the field. Question 70. Which of the following is true? Sale is a transfer of ownership in exchange for a price paid or promised or part paid and part promised. Question 71. The Transfer of Property Act 1882 is applicable to the following transfers: both to transfers relating to movable properties as well as immovable properties. Question 72. Which of the following is a transfer under the Transfer of Property Act 1882? A. Sale, B. Gift, C. Lease. Answer: D. All of the above. Question 73. The provision of marshalling by subsequent purchaser are given in which section of the Transfer of Property Act 1882? Section 56. Who is responsible to provide for the office of every registering officer the books necessary for the purpose of this Act? State government. Question 75. Which section deals with documents of which registration is compulsory? Section 17(1)(7). Question 76. The following documents shall be registered: 1. Instruments of gift immovable property. 2. Non-testamentary instruments which acknowledge the receipt or payment of any consideration on account of the creation, declaration, assignment, limitation or extinction of any such right, title or interest. Both are correct. Question 77. Which documents registration is not required? A. Any instrument relating to shares in a joint stock company, notwithstanding that the assets of such company consist in whole or in part of immovable property. B. Any instrument of partition made by a revenue officer. Both A and B are correct. Question 78. If the lease of immovable property exceeds dash, then registration is compulsory. 1 year. Question 79. Registration is compulsory of non-testamentary instruments which purport or operate to create, declare, assign, limit or extinguish, whether in present or in future, any right, title or interest, whether vested or contingent, of the value of dash to or in immovable property. 100 rupees and upwards. Question 80. Persons entitled to present wills for registration if the testator is dead. A. Executor. B. Any person claiming otherwise under a will. Both A and B are correct. Question 81. A will presented for registration by the testator may be registered in the same manner as any other document. Question 82. Which of the following statements are false about the wills? Spouse of the testator may, either personally or by duly authorized agent, deposit with any registrar his will in a sealed cover. Question 83. On receiving a will in sealed cover, the registrar must or shall 1. Satisfy that the person presenting the same for deposit is the testator or his agent. 2. May note in his book and on the said cover the year, month, day and hour of such presentation and receipt and the names of any persons who may testify to identify of the testator or his agent. Both are correct. 1 and 2 are correct. Question 84. Time from which registered document operates. The time which it would have commenced to operate if no registration thereof had been required to or made. Question 85. Which section deals with certificate of registration? Section 60. Question 86. Under the Indian Trust Act, a trust is an obligation annexed to the ownership of property and arising out of a confidence reposed in and accepted by the owner. Under that act, the person who accepts the confidence is called trustee. Question 87. Which of the following statement is incorrect regarding the creation of a trust? Author must always transfer the trust property to the trustee. This statement is incorrect. Question 88. Shyam, a trustee of a certain piece of land for Ramesh and Geeta is authorized to sell the land by public auction. As per provisions of the Indian Trust Act 1982, Shyam can sell the land by private contract if authorized to do so by Ramesh and Geeta, who are competent to contract. Question 89. Subject to any direction contained in the instrument of trust, where the trust property consists of money and cannot be applied immediately or at an early date to the purpose of the trust. A. Trustee can invest the money as authorized by the instrument of trust. B. Trustee can invest the money in securities specified by the central government by notification. Both A and B are correct. Question 90. Which of the following statements is incorrect regarding investment of trust property being money that cannot be applied immediately to the purposes of the trust? A. If there is a person competent to contract and entitled to receive the income of the trust property for his life, no investment can be made without his consent. B. The trustee may invest in redeemable securities also, subject to other conditions being met. C. A trustee may retain any redeemable stock purchased by him until redemption, subject to other conditions being met. Answer: none of the above. Question 91. Where a trustee commits breach of trust by unreasonable delay in paying trust money to the beneficiary and in thus liable for payment of interest, what is the rate of interest that will apply as per the provision of Indian Trust Act 1882? Simple interest at the rate of 6% per annum. Question 92. A person X purchases a building which is a trust property. The person buys it in good faith at market price and has no notice of the existence of the trust. Nor did he have notice of the said building being trust property at the time of making payment or when conveyance deed was executed. Which of the following statement is correct in view of section 64 of the Indian Trust Act 1882? The beneficiary of the trust is not entitled to right in respect of the property in the hands of X. This statement is correct. Question 93. A trust created otherwise than by will can be revoked dash. A by the consent of all beneficiaries where all of them are competent to contract. B at the pleasure of author of the trust where the trust is for the payment of the debts of the author and has not been communicated to the creditors. Both A and B are correct. Question 94. Which section of the Indian Trust Act 1882 deals with modes of investment of money, that is, trust property? Section 20. Question 95. Which of the following is incorrect as per the Indian Trust Act 1882? The author of the trust cannot himself be the trustee. Question 96. Under the provisions of Civil Procedure Code, how service of summons is considered proper at first time? By getting signature of by getting signatures of parties. Question 97. A defendant to whom summons has been issued may appear A. in person, B. through a duly instructed pleader, C. through a pleader accompanied by a person able to answer all such questions. All of the above answer. Question 98. On the non-appearance of a summoned witness, the Civil Procedure Code 1908 enables the court to A. attach his property or part, B. sell his attached property or part, C. impose a fine. All of the above are correct. Question 99. If an application is received by the court to examine a witness not within India, the court may issue A. warrant, B. commission, C. letter of request. Answer B. commission, C. letter of request. Question 100. Section 60 to 63 of the Civil Procedure Code 1908 deals with attachment.